Martin started it out. He was a farm boy. 1924 was when he filed the first paperwork. In those days, the farms around here were very crude, a lot of trees. They weren't the big square open fields we see today. So he found a niche to clear trees, move things around so they could get square field. And some of the township roads were just inverse, because wherever you drove, it just became a ditch. So they realized that pretty soon, when it rains or snow, we need to get the road higher. So then he's like, well, I can do that. So then he would start bumping the township roads up higher so that when they were actually doing their harvest, they weren't driving in a ditch, they were driving on the high ground and could get their crops. So that was his start, was to just, work with the ag community.
Martin only had a 6th grade education, but he was so smart. He would come home and he would make a machine. The first time we built this road that goes right past here, Martin built his own truck that they would load the dirt in to haul it, and he built his own machine that would load it. He'd sit there at night and he would draw, and he'd go back to the shop. That was his passion.
We went from a trinket, build it yourself, use it yourself, figure out how to do it yourself, and we're gonna grind through and nothing's really gonna stop us, to grinding through the hard years of the Depression and potential closing of the business. My great-grandpa had papers to file bankruptcy, and he just couldn't do it. Just because he had the respect for people that either were employed or he was working for. He's like, I can't do it.
My grandpa broke his neck, and my dad was only 17, and he just jumped in because my grandfather was disabled. In those days, you didn't hardly survive a broken neck. He was kind of noted to be a miracle. They just basically completely casted him up from head to the belly button, so he looked like a cartoon character. And then Richard took over and just started doing what had to be done. My dad was a dreamer. He was an entrepreneur in the purest terms. He knew he had a brother coming up, Reinhold, who was in engineering. Between the two of them, they were like, we can figure this out. We can go a little bigger, a little deeper. They were a dynamic duo, doing many, many projects. And at the time, we were only doing county projects and private work.
Richard decided maybe we should start bidding on state jobs. So the first state job we ever had was from Milroy to Trunk Highway 19 over by Marshall. And that was a big deal. We were scared to death because we were scared of all the restrictions and everything that the state has. Nowadays, I look back and I think, my goodness, how did we do all that? But here we are.
Mathiowetz Construction was actually born in our house. And when I was as young as 6, we were taught to answer the phone properly. You had to say, hello, Mathiowetz Construction, because you weren't at your house, you were at Mathiowetz Construction, even though it was the kitchen. Customers were super important, even to us when we were little kids. You learned hands-on. Everything you did was to the betterment of the company, and our dad really wanted us to know where our opportunities had come from. He never ever wanted us to not appreciate what Mathiowetz Construction could do for us and where our roots were.
Richard was an amazing man, and he lived every bit of his life with passion. We have a special needs daughter, and she went to the Academy for the Blind in Faribault. And I remember when he would say, I'm going to be in the cities today, I'll pick her up from there and bring her home. And so I'd be sitting there timing it, and he'd be going, he wouldn't be back, and he wouldn't be back, and he wouldn't. And here he had taken her to a job, and he had done this, and all these extra things with her, because he was just very family oriented.
He worked sunup to sundown. 4 o'clock in the morning, he would move out of his bedroom and down to the couch because he had to be next to the phone. And he didn't finish till 10:30 at night. He always was working on something. He would weld himself. His thing was, you don't need to ask someone else to do something. If you're not willing to do it yourself, then you can ask somebody else to do it. His last task before he happened to die in '99 was to totally engineer and project manage our new shop.
His true passion was definitely Mathiowetz Construction. He spent many, many hours every day making sure that ran well. And he was just a wonderful man all the way around.
We all learned to be the leader. It's always efficiency. You want to get done. You want to touch it once.
Even today, we have some operators who are at the retirement age who say, Richard made me do it right. And if I didn't do it right, he made me do it over. He made me be the operator I am today. And many of these guys are some of the best of the best. So it became a culture of do it right the first time.
Richard spent a lot of time every winter down at the legislature because he wanted 5-cent gas tax to go for transportation. And he could not get those people convinced that 5 cents was going to be a good thing. They thought it was going to break everybody. Nobody was going to drive anymore if you put 5 cents on. Nowadays, they put it on and don't think nothing of it.
He became an advocate for more transportation spending and to spend it in the right way. We often kidded that he should have an apartment in the cities because he was up there so often.
He really believed in service to the community. He understood that roads are for everybody. And if we don't have good roads, some people are left behind. That was one of his biggest goals in life, was to make sure that transportation worked for everybody. And he literally put his own hands to the grindstone to do that. One of Dad's last groups of big jobs would have been like Garden City, Trunk Highway 169, where we started to get into the big jobs where we were doing a 2-lane to 4-lane expansion. After Dad died, we kind of grabbed onto that as a new model, and we became the expert on the major highways around here. Trunk Highway 14, we've done many of the segments between here and all the way to Rochester, and so Dad was never afraid to bite off the next challenge.
Through the 90s, he started letting go, and by the time he actually passed away in 99, he had given a lot of authority over to me, but we never expected that he would just pass away instantly.
Establishing this company after Dad died was a daunting task because Brian had been helping and being a strong second partner, but Brian rapidly became the figurehead, the person that had to answer all the questions. So Brian's method of management became much more collaborative, with a lot of delegating to other people where they make the decisions, where Dad had really run it as a top-down management. He made the decision, someone else executed. And that was where I came in, because he actually gave me an area to take and run with, and human resources and legal. We didn't even have that as a focus before I got here.
After Richard passed away, I took on the part of controller for a while, just for the fact because we had lost our controller. We had to actually pull together the staff in the office as well. We all had to sort of figure out, okay, now who's that one person, that one contact that sort of makes sure everything flows. Between Brian and Julie and myself, we each just did whatever it took and filled in wherever we needed to fill in to make sure that everything was covered.
Early on, we'd go to AGC convention, and one of the topics always was transitions of family businesses. They always showed us the statistics from second generation to my third generation. It's like a 96% failure rate. I was going to be the 4% and not the 96%. I knew that my goal was we were going to get to a fourth generation. I was going to do my part. I'm just a steward of this business for those years. The Lord is our ultimate CEO. He's going to keep challenging us. It's not going to make it easy every day.
This is my 15th year at Mathiowetz, and probably my 4th season kind of full time in the office. So I spent about 11 or 12 years out in the field, basically starting from shoveling with pipe crew, doing labor, learning that whole aspect, up to field leadership, so running a project on my own, and eventually then coming into the office and taking all of that education I gained out in the field now into more of a leadership position in the office.
The company has always been family-oriented. It's not just by blood that you're family anymore. It's by the experiences you have, the support you receive from others, and that's what really makes it important, and very proud of that fact.
I'm so proud of my kids because they've got a lot of the same priorities that we had and keep on really feeling like a family with all these employees, and that's one thing a lot of them do say, and a lot of them thank us for, because they really feel appreciated.
I'd like to see Mathiowetz to truly become the preferred contractor in Minnesota, in the Midwest, for all aspects, whether it's for employment and they want to come work here, or whether someone has a job and they're looking to hire a contractor. They're like, hey, I heard Mathiowetz is, they're the ones that should probably do this. We need to continually improve the lives of our employees, of the communities we work in, to the fullest of our ability, and to leave an impact that's everlasting.
I was handed this company. I didn't have to build this company. Not everyone gets a chance to do that, and now we get a chance to hand it on to a fourth generation and see what they can do with it. And this isn't my company, it's a family company. It always has had the roots of Martin, Richard Reinhold, Now me and Julie here in this next generation, and now moving to a next generation with Chad and his leadership team that he has.